Today is the first Friday of the 9th month in the year 2024. We are gradually coming to the end of the third quarter of this year. Thank you for joining us on our program series called Issues in Economic Development on Amorgate Radio Communications. I remain your host, Titilola Ogushono. Today, we will be exploring another impactor factor that could lead to an increase in the rate of unemployment in an economy, and that is low level of savings and investment. We'll look closely at the definition of savings, likewise definition of investment. We'll discuss why savings is important in an economy. We'll look at factors that could influence or enhance the level of savings in an economy. And definitely, like our usual practice, we take empirical evidences around the globe, looking at countries with the highest level of savings, not just national income, but countries with the highest level of savings. And likewise, we'll look at countries with the lowest, levels of savings and investments. What we'll be looking at very closely is the definition of savings, the definition of investment. We're going to examine the kind of relationship that is between savings and investment, and why do we think that the savings and investment has a major role to play in determining the rate of unemployment in an economy. Okay, I'm sure when we're children, our parents encourage us to save, and as adults, we're also encouraging our children to save. Okay, so we're going to be conversant, we are quite conversant with the concept of saving. But let's take one or two fundamental definitions on this concept of savings. According to Keynesian economics, savings is defined as the amount left over when the cost of a person's consumer expenditure is subtracted from the disposable income that he or she earns in a given period of time. So according to Keynesian, when we talk about savings, we are talking about what is left, after your disposable income, the part of your disposable income, that you have not spent on consumables. And for the record, when we say disposable income in economics, we mean that your total income, minus your tax. So is the total income at your disposal after tax would have been deducted. So when you talk about the disposable income, you're not looking at that part that you're not spent on consumption. So that's the definition by Keynesian economics. Another view on the concept of saving is that it refers to the amount of disposable income not spent on consumption of consumer goods, but accumulated or invested directly in capital equipment, or in paying off a home mortgage, or indirectly through purchase of securities. So what this second definition is speaking to is that, anytime that amount of your income that you do not spend on consumables, consumer goods, you do not spend on consumption purpose, but rather when you save it, it's always get towards productive activities. So some would ask me that if I have money stacked, in my wardrobe at home, or you have your money stacked in your boxes at home, is that savings? Yes, you are saving that part, but that will not automatically lead to investment in an economy, because the money you have stacked in your wardrobe, the money you have stacked in your suitcases would not be available to the real sector, to the manufacturing sector, will not be available to the businessmen to take out as loans from the banks so that they can pour into productive activities. So anytime you take off this loan, when you take that part of your income that you are saving, it's not going to turn into automatic level of investment for your economy if it is not, within the banking sector, if you have not taken it out for investment purposes. That's why when you talk about savings, when you even use part of your money to pay off your mortgage, that's saving, because you're not consuming it. It's for the future, wealth creation. So let's look at the various definitions of investment. Investment could mean the production of goods that will be used to produce other goods. So you are investing in some goods that will be used in the production of other goods that will create wealth and value. According to Keynes, is the production of new capital goods, plants, and equipment. And definitely when you produce new capital goods, we're talking about capital formation, of a nation. You're investing in new plants and equipment, and they will be deployed in producing goods that will bring in value, bring in money. In fact, it will bring in goods that can also export to other countries. And in general terms, investment has been defined as deploying money in the hope of making more money. So anytime you are deploying your money, into a venture that would make you make more money, okay? So that's investment. And in finance, okay, investment is the purchase of a financial product or other items of value with an expectation of making favorable future returns. So anytime you are investing in financial assets, in shares, you want to get bonds because you have the expectation that you are going to get favorable returns in the nearest future. That is investment definition according to the financial experts. So let's look at the relationship between savings and investment. You need to know that savings and investment are basic requirements for economic growth and development. A nation cannot grow if it does not improve its level of savings and investment. And savings and investment have what we call positive relationship or direct relationship. What do we mean? When the level of savings in the economy is high, the level of investment is also going to be high. Likewise, if the level of savings in an economy is low, if people are consuming more than they are saving, it means that it's going to affect their investment capabilities. Like I said, if they cannot put the money into banks, it means that even the businessmen that will need the money for business expansion will not have access to it. So, savings is very important because that's the bedrock of capital formation of a country, and that is the foundation of investment activities. Why do we need to consider these two? These are two macroeconomic variables that are used for achieving price stability and also promote employment opportunities. Because if businesses, firms, do not have access to capital, what happens? It means that they cannot even expand their businesses. It means that they cannot expand their plant sizes. They can't buy more equipment, capital goods that will be used in production of other goods. And what does that do? It means that you cannot even employ more people. Instead of even employing more people, generating more employment opportunities, what will happen is that because production capabilities would have reduced or declined drastically if you cannot expand. Now what happens is that the ability of the firms to employ more people will be jeopardized. And that's not the only thing, okay? Is that even the existing workforce might have to be trimmed. Then we talk about downsizing, right-sizing, laying off of workers. That's why savings and investment are two macroeconomic variables that any country would not want to jeopardize. Let's go further to answer this question. Why is savings important in an economy? The first one is that high level of savings will lead to an increase in investment in an economy. When an individual saves money in the banks, and these deposits are taken by the banks, and the banks in turn give it out as loans, deposit it as loans to business owners who need this money to finance their operational costs, to finance capital, equipment to finance business expansion. So when savings is high, you see people taking the money to the bank. That's why you see the government coming up with monetary policies that would encourage savings, because the more you encourage people to save in an economy, the first thing that it does for the economy is going to increase the level of investment. And savings does not just come from households alone. We have in the household savings, we have individuals, also private organizations, and also the public sector. We have government agencies too that receive the revenue and they save this. So it helps. Once the level of savings is high, the first thing why savings is important is because we have to increase the level of investment. And I said earlier that savings and investment have positive relationship or direct relationship. So once it is high, the investment level in the economy will also be high. And the second one, why we need to increase the level of savings, is that it promotes job creation. And don't forget that various ways of saving. You could have your money in the banks. You could save in the bank and decide to buy securities, shares with the money you have saved. When government needs money and sells money, you can also decide to take it out, to get those bonds. So, and even when talking about the money market instruments, when big organizations, corporations approach the money market to sell their commercial papers, bankers' acceptance, once you have enough, then you can purchase that. So you see that savings is very vital. So if, for instance, it's $1 Ogunshola PLC, approaches the money market to raise funds because I need funds for business expansion. I want to expand to another African country, okay? And I need funds to expand. And I need it for just a short period of time, okay? If it's for a short period of time, because already I have my plant size, I've got my equipment, what I just need is just maybe running to take off my working capital for the next 3-6 months. I can approach the Nigerian money market to say, look, I need to sell commercial papers. But if people have not saved, how can I get that kind of money for my working capital? And don't forget that sometimes when an organization decides to go to another country, you can also move your people from here to the other country, as expatriates. So you need working capital. Even if I'm even expanding from a particular part of the country, maybe to the northern part, and I need working capital. And also, but when people do not save, how can I generate those kind of money? How do you want to even generate employment opportunities? So savings is important because it's going to promote job creation, and that is because firms, organizations would have access to funds needed for business expansion purposes. So why do we need to save in an economy? It's because it helps to finance government deficits. I'm going to take it again. Why we need to save is because it enables, it helps to finance government deficits, budget deficit. Now, what do I mean by this? When government comes up with their budget for a particular year, for a financial year, maybe year 2020, and the expected revenue for that year is maybe $3 trillion, and you realize that that's your budget expected revenue, and your budgeted expenditure based on the 3 million calculation projection is, look, we need to maybe 2.8 trillion. Now you are still going to have surplus, expected to have a surplus. Now in reality, instead of the expected revenue to be at 3 million, if it eventually happens that the expected revenues, some happenings come up and your projection goes wrong, and you just have a $2 trillion revenue, that means you have a shortfall. Remember, I said expenditure will be 2.8. So you have a shortfall of 0.8 trillion. So what do? So how do you raise the 800 million difference? So what happens is when there is saving, when the level of saving is high, government can fall back, to borrow from the banks, borrow this money from the banks. Can sell. Sometimes when you see government sell their bonds, you sell bonds to mop it up, because you need money to finance this. Now don't forget that the money people will bring to buy those bonds, it's part of their savings. So if they have spent everything on consumption, it means that government cannot even borrow domestically. So what you now have to resort to as a government is that you now go, to other countries to borrow. So domestic debt, and don't forget that if it's a country that the exchange rate is quite volatile, it means that when you have gone to another country to borrow, you're going to have to pay in that country you are paying back. And that's why some developing nations are neck deep in debt, because they cannot even pay the principal back. They are still struggling with paying the interest rate. And the interest rate has been inflated through exchange rate volatility, like a country like Nigeria. So, but when you encourage your citizens to save, if you put in the infrastructure, if you put in the incentives for them to save, the government can borrow domestically. Okay, though economists have also argued that it will bring about the crowding effect. That means we are going to crowd out individuals and businesses that want to borrow in the same place as with the government, but also helps the government to mitigate exchange rate volatility issues. So let's take the last reason why you need to save. Make sure that savings level is high. Why does government need to put in infrastructure, the measures, the strategies, the policy to encourage savings in an economy? Is because countries with higher savings rates have a faster economic growth than countries with low rates of saving. If you want to improve your economic growth, you must always save. And I said there was a particular previous program series where we talked about economic growth. We are saying it's the monetary value of goods and services produced in an economy within a given period of time, usually a year. Okay, so when you do not produce, so how do you even grow the economy? And that is being captured by GDP. That's the vision I just get. So once you grow the economy, when your investment rate is high, then you can even think of export, to other countries. And it even helps your balance of payment position. So we have said it, savings is very important. And I've said what is high, you can see all of the economic implications of high rate of saving. We're going to consider the factors that would enhance or influence the level of savings in an economy. The first factor I will look at is interest rate. When interest rates are high, that is interest on deposits to be precise. When interest on deposits are high, definitely that would attract more savers. It will encourage more people to take their money to the banks if interest rates are high. And of course, vice versa. And economists will say ceteris paribus, all things being equal. So it means that when interest rates are declining, it's going to discourage savers. Okay, so if we want people to save more in an economy, since we understand that that's a foundation for capital formation that would be needed for high level of investment in the economy, that will be needed to achieve economic growth in the same nation. So we want to look at the interest rate in terms of the deposit rate. Interest earned on money deposited with the bank. So when the interest rates are high, more people will be encouraged to save. Okay, so if the interest rate, for instance, is 1% and 1%, I have $1,000 in my account, it means that I'm going to be earning $10, okay, for that particular year. So if interest rate increases to 6%, so what happens? And I have that $1,000, it means I'm going to earn $60, dollars. That would encourage me to save more. All right. So that is it. But ordinarily, but there are exceptions to it. There was a particular time there was a recession and interest rate were actually cut down. So I think about less than 1%, and did not really reduce the level of savings because consumers were pessimistic about the future. Okay, like I said, that those are exceptional cases, but 9 out of 10, when interest rates are high in terms of interest earned on deposit rate, savers would be encouraged to save more. So let's look at another factor that would enhance or encourage an increase in the level of savings in an economy, an increase in income. When the income of individuals increases. So when income increases, people would want to save more. Okay, now that is ceteris paribus, all things being equal. When your income increases from maybe 2 million naira per annum, increases like a 5 million per annum, it's expected that your MPS, marginal propensity to save, increases. But if you are talking about income, it's also better to talk about real income. One other thing that could affect your savings, not your savings level not to go up as your income increases, is that you now talk about the value of the income. Is it nominal income or real income? Okay, so if you are earning, the hypothetical example I stated earlier, if you are earning 2 million naira and it increases to a 4 million naira, you expect that to be increased. But if you're talking about the real value, your real income would have made provision for inflationary pressure. Okay, so you are assuming that the 2 million, when it increased to 4 million, it was a time where your inflationary pressure was stable. So it means that what you could purchase with 2 million, with 4 million now should double what you could when it was 2 million. But when the inflationary pressure is high, okay, in some cases, even the 4 million naira you are now earning would not be able to buy what 2 million naira could buy back then. So in that case, marginal propensity to save will not go up. What would go up is your marginal propensity to consume. You are going to consume more. So that's why we talk about an increase in income. As economists, we talk about an increase in your real income. That is, the value of your income will actually increase because you're already looking at inflationary pressure. Is it stable? You are already making provision for it. So your real income. So when real income increases, your marginal propensity to save is expected to increase. So anytime you are talking about increasing worker salary, you want them to save more, you must be checking the inflationary pressure in the economy. Because otherwise, you are not making them better off, you are making them worse off, even if that increase. And it's not going to achieve an increase in the level of savings. And if that does not increase, as a nation, you are not serious about growing your economy because it's going to affect the investment level in such an economy. So let's look at another factor that would also influence the level of savings in a nation. The third is the age of the population, or what we call the demographics. Now, this is very important because we have what we call the life cycle theory of consumption. So if you look at different life cycle of an individual in a particular nation, let's even break it down. We have the student at that stage. As a student, we have them taking out student loan. They're not likely to save so much because that's the stage where they are building themselves for the future. They are projecting themselves in order to be valuable to the society and also so that they can be useful for themselves. So at that point in time, you're not going to expect high rates of saving. It's going to affect the level of savings in the economy. Now, who are those that are likely to save? People in their 40s are likely to save more. That's on the average. It could be like late 30s in some other continents. So people in their 40s, 50s are likely to save more. Now, why are they likely to save? They're likely to save because already looking at the retirement age. They're looking at saving towards retirement. So people in their 40s, their 50s, mid-50s, late 50s are likely to save more. So demographics, no matter the kind of interest rate you put on board, the demographics would also play a major role in the level of savings in that economy. Okay, and also know that we have the retirees. The retirees are not likely to save more because they're not even earning at that point. So it's more of their consumption pattern being very high. Okay, even a lot of things will be failing. They're going to be having health issues, health challenges. There'll be a lot of spending channels. Okay, so you look at the working population, look at those having a decade left to transit into age of retirement. So demographics, age of the population, is another factor that would affect the level of savings in an economy. The fourth factor we're considering is cultural values or orientation. We talk a lot about saving culture. We have some countries that have very strong saving culture. They are not heavy money spenders. In fact, when you take that data on, how many of them use their credit cards, how many of them go beyond the limit, use even up to their limit, you see that these countries have very strong savings culture, like Germany. So we have some countries like that have very strong, savings culture. So when the savings culture is high in such an economy, definitely the level of savings will be high. And vice versa. You have also some cultures that are money spenders. Okay, they don't even talk about savings. They all practically live on debt. They practically live on their credit cards. Okay, we have countries like that. In fact, even within we're talking about different countries. Even in a particular country, we have some tribes that are money spenders. And we have some tribes that are very thrift. They love saving. They save. It's all about making money. It's all about the business. So it has its twists, okay? But the truth is, savings culture is one that should be embraced by all. Now, but we can't say that people are not going to consume, because when people do not even consume, it's still going to affect investment. Because if you look at national income, we say your national income is equal to your C, that's your consumption, plus your I, investment, plus your G, the government expenditure, plus if it's like an open economy, X minus M in brackets. You are talking about the difference between your export and your import, which speaks to your trade balance. So when people do not even consume, it means that the businesses are not going to produce more. Okay, so we are not saying do not consume. We are saying that the percentage of consumption should not outweigh the percentage of investment. You consume, but there should be a part of your income that is dedicated into investment activities. That you can do a ratio 70 to 30, 70 on consumption, 30 on investment, but definitely not a ratio 95 to or 98 to 2. But there are factors too that would be in an economy and people cannot save. Okay, inflationary pressure will not allow you save. Okay, yes, if the inflationary pressure is very high and you are worse off, you're talking about money illusion. Like I said, a 4 millionaire might not be able to buy what 2 millionaire could buy back then without inflationary pressure. Okay, but if it's as it is in some countries where inflationary pressure is, it's creeping is maybe to less than 3% inflationary pressure, then you expect that saving culture should be high. So that is cultural values of orientation for you. Orientation in terms of what they have seen their grandparents do, what they have seen their parents do. So it becomes their way of life, saving, which is one thing every nation should try to embrace. Another factor that also influences is your level of wealth. Okay, now most times when asset prices increases, that is, the prices of houses, of rent, when it increases, realize that households or families may reduce their savings level. And this has been experienced before in the 1980s and 2000s when significant rise in house prices was witnessed. This increased the wealth of homeowners. However, it led to a reduction in savings level. So when prices increases and people want to buy houses, they rent houses, definitely they are going to reduce their level of savings. So that is the price, asset price being a factor or a determinant of savings level in an economy. So let's look at another one, the sixth one, the confidence level of the citizens. As simple as that might sound, it's a major factor. Okay, when the level of confidence and expectations of the future, would have an impact, in fact, a huge impact on savings level. When citizens, have that confidence about the future, when people believe that the future will be booming, will be lucrative, they don't envisage any problem in the future, their willingness or eagerness to save might reduce. We talk about saving for the rainy day. If they don't see any rainy day in sight, so definitely it's going to affect their savings level. However, when the future, seems, bleak, or when the confidence level about the future to your citizens is very low, people are likely to save more. So that adage of saving for the rainy day comes into play here. Okay, and what usually dictates this is the nature of the economic climate. When people are looking at the house prices, has it been stable? They are looking at inflationary pressure, has it been at its barest minimum? They are looking at the level of economic growth. Have you had steady increase in economic growth? These are what people will look at. So if it has been steady, if they've seen growth, you've seen inflationary rate at the barest minimum, asset prices have been stable, so definitely they want to save more. But if it's all the way around, definitely it's going to affect the level of savings. That's why we say that for every government, we want your citizens to have that confidence level in you, because you know that it will influence their level of savings. The perception about government policies, the perception about leadership would affect their level of savings. When they don't even trust the value of your currency, it's going to affect their levels of savings. If you are not sure that the value, what we can buy now, you can also get it at that value in the next 4 months. So if it's a country where you can wake up tomorrow, you get something this night, the next morning it is high, how would people want to save in your currency? They're not going to save. I know what that means. It's going to have adverse effect on your balance of payments position. You don't even have adverse effect on you as an economy, because you don't even affect the value of your currency. Because when people are demanding foreign currency over their own domestic currency in terms of savings, is going to affect. And I know that there have been a lot of measures by government to discourage holding of foreign currency and all that. But the main thing is to make sure that you restore confidence level in your citizens. Unless they have these, they are not going to be encouraged to save or even invest in the economy. So the business climate is a job, of the government, and that's why there must be policies that will get towards this. We say that the macroeconomic objectives of a government includes, achieving economic growth and development. And how can you achieve economic growth and development if you are not checking your savings level? You're not creating the business environment for your people to have confidence in your currency, in your infrastructure, in your policies. These are factors that would affect you achieving that macroeconomic objective of economic growth. In fact, even speaks to your balance of payments equilibrium. Okay, so if you are serious about achieving this main macroeconomic objective as a government, you have to be checking, all these, I'll call them savings drivers in the economy. And of course, natural factors on unexpected event is another major factor. Before the pandemic, we say the pandemic came in and a lot of businesses were affected, and some people's major source of livelihood almost came to a halt. They were struggling to feed. So definitely the level of savings in that kind of economy would be affected. However, there were some other businesses that picked up, during the pandemic, because we all had to stay at home, and definitely the use of virtual platforms like Zoom, like Teams for meetings, for conferences also really helped. Okay, so we had some people in other sectors, that were able to even make so much money, so much profit, but majority of the people stayed at home, and that affected the rate of savings. Now why are we saying this? Is that there are some risks that you cannot mitigate. Natural occurrence, if there's drought, that flood, a lot of things that could happen. Now, since you cannot have control over natural events, natural occurrences, why can't we control those factors that we can influence? You can influence the confidence level of our people by formulating the right policies, seeing leadership at its peak, displaying empathetic leadership, sense of direction. We can control cultural values orientation by orientating our people. We can control asset prices to a very large extent. So the things, we can even control inflationary pressure. Looking at the drivers of inflation, I would like to take that in another program series, okay? And how that can affect economic development, okay? So we can control something. So the things that we can control in terms of savings drivers in an economy, that's where the focus should be on policy formulations or create the right environment for people to save, for investments to thrive in an economy, because we cannot control natural factors. So we should focus our energies on controlling those human factors that are really controllable. Okay, and definitely the last but not the least, the level of financial literacy would affect the level of savings in an economy. Wow, this is all we can take on today's episode of our program. I hope that you have learned one or two things today. Kindly click the like button, and remember, at Amogate, for your consulting needs, for your training needs, communication needs, strategy needs, we are here to get you covered. This is what we love to do. We know how to do best, partner with organizations to achieve that strategic intent. To learn more about us, kindly visit our website www.theamogate.org. Also, we have our social media handles. Facebook is Amogate, Instagram is Amogate, LinkedIn is Amogate as well. And for previous episodes, you can look at our website. We have that uploaded. And remember, it's 5 p.m. WAT every Monday to Fridays. I have my colleagues with very expository, intriguing, interesting, informative, insightful episodes on various programs Monday through Fridays. And if you have any comment, questions, feedback, kindly send a mail to us at contact@theamogate.org. It's contact@theamogate.org for all your questions. I will always ensure that we have these questions in other episodes. Is there any other angle you want us to look at? We always send it to us and find a way to inculcate this in subsequent episodes. I'll not leave us, without dropping the words of Warren Buffett, which says, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." Hope you join me same time next Friday, 5 p.m. WAT. Yes, still on Amogate Radio Communication. I remain Titulala August Shona saying bye from here.